Hey guys, this is a video response for Pynn. A few months back, he made a challenge to a drunken film school to review the Hellraiser series. And I don't think they did, but Our 517 did do a video, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I was inspired to do my own video, as I have all the movies in the series, which is rare for me to have like every movie in a horror series. There's not too many that I do. I guess I'm gonna get into the movies now. I'm not gonna talk too much about the first two movies because those ones were the better movies in the series. Hellraiser and then Hellbound. The sequels I thought were more interesting, but I did enjoy Hellraiser and Hellbound. Although I prefer the first Hellraiser movie to any of the sequels. Although Hellbound is probably the best sequel overall. So I'm going to start with the third movie. Actually, I probably should talk about the first two a little bit. I'm rambling now. It's late on a Sunday night. Originally, like the original story for Hellraiser really didn't have to do too much with the Cenobites, and I think that was a problem that they had in the third and fourth movies. But the real evil in the original films was like the Julia and Frank characters. Like I guess Julia was married to Frank's brother, and they had an affair, and he was a real hedonist. And he somehow he came across the laminate configuration, and he went to the family home in Britain or England or wherever, and opened it up, and of course these spikes went into it and all that stuff, and got ripped apart. And later on, Frank's brother, with his wife Julia and his daughter Christy, moved back into the house, and he gets cut while he was moving a bed, and in the attic, I think. And because the blood act as a catalyst, kind of like a blood sacrifice, and because of that, Frank was able to come back. And Julia discovers like the monstrous version of Frank, and she agrees to help find people for him to feed on to get back to normal. And that's pretty much the basic plot of the first one. And of course, Christy finds out, and then she stumbles upon the Chinese puzzle box and ends up summoning the Cenobites accidentally, and then she tries to make a deal to give them Frank. And then that's everybody's seen the movie. I'm not gonna go ahead and describe the whole movie, but the Cenobites weren't really in the movie much, probably like no more than 10 minutes tops, but they were striking creatures. I really liked the way they looked, but they were kind of noble in a sense. Okay, now into Hellraiser 2 is an interesting movie. Like, there's a couple problems I had with it, with the continuity, because Christy was okay at the end of the first movie, but somehow she wakes up in a psych ward, and it just so happens that the main head of the psych ward is also into the puzzle box stuff. He's got a whole collection of them, and he even has information on Pinhead and his origins and stuff like that. And this is the movie where he has a girl captive who's has like these puzzle solving abilities, so he uses her to summon the Cenobites, and they end up going to hell. And of course Julia returns. She's in the Frank role in this one, and this is a good movie. As far as I'll get into that movie. Well, one thing I will talk about is the ending, because originally the ending was they wanted the Julia character to continue on in the series, but the actress that played her didn't want to do it. She didn't want to become, like in her words, the female Freddy Krueger. So when you watch the movie, you can tell the ending is kind of abrupt, and it doesn't really match the rest of the movie. But unfortunately, she didn't want to go on with it, and that's kind of affected the plot for Hellraiser 3: Hell on Earth, where since Pinhead kind of died at the end of the second movie, they did this thing where his personality got split between being human and being the demon. So the demon Pinhead in this one is totally evil, as opposed to being a more noble, chaotic, neutral character. And that was pretty much the plot of that one, was trying to get the two halves back together. But the one thing that I did like about Hell on Earth was it was the ending, because it would tease something that was in the comic books. In the comic books, Hellraiser series from the 90s, they teased that there was other forms of puzzles. Like there was one story where this guy had a book of riddles, and that led to the doorway of hell. And there was a story too where this apartment building was like a puzzle box. Depending on which floors and the rooms you went into, apartments, that would unlock hell. And at the end of Hellraiser, Hellbound 3, or Hellbound 3, Hellraiser, Hell on Earth, the main character throws the box into the foundations of a new building, and that inspires the Limit Confederation building. And they did talk about that a little bit in the fourth movie, which is Hellraiser Bloodlines, which takes a huge departure from the other movies, because this movie is an anthology, and it's made up of 3 stories, and the third story is out in outer space, and it's a wraparound story, and it goes to the bloodlines and the origins of the puzzle box, which kind of bothered me, because it was supposed to be a Chinese puzzle box, but they had it being made by a French person, which really made no sense. Like, why would a French person construct a Chinese puzzle box? But they went ahead and did it anyways. See if I can switch this image up here. But they went ahead and went with it. And this is the movie that got Alan Smithied. Kevin Yeager was supposed to, well, he was directing this movie, but he ended up having problems with the producers, because they wanted more Pinhead, because Pinhead was most prominent in the third movie. Where in fact, when you watch Hellraiser Bloodline, the Angelique character is a demon, and she's pretty much the main villain through most of the first story and in the second story. And she was really really effective, the Angelique character, but they kind of messed up with that, because they wanted more Pinhead. So as the movie goes along, her character gets forgotten, and then they bring in the Pinhead character to kind of finish out the story. But the Angelique character was quite interesting. So Kevin Yeager, he left the movie partway through, and you can tell because the first story takes place in Victorian times, and they kind of skimp out on the story. It's only like 10 minutes long, whereas the middle part and then the ending are much longer than the beginning of the story. But it's still an okay, sequel. Alright, so I'm done talking about that one. Let's go on to the fifth movie, which, I think Bloodlines came out in 1996. And this one was, I want to say 2001, was Hellraiser Inferno, which was the first direct-to-video movie, and it was also the first Hellraiser movie to use an existing script for the movie, as opposed to an actual true Hellraiser script. But this one, I will say, is the most successful of all the ones that were direct-to-video movies. And this one stars Craig Schaefer, and he plays a crooked cop, and he stumbles upon a murder scene where they find a limit configuration, as well as a severed child's finger inside of a candle, and he's trying to solve the case. But he steals the puzzle box, and he goes out with a prostitute, and then he goes in the bathroom and plays with it, and sure enough, he goes, opens up the doors of hell. Now this one has some of the coolest Cenobites, aside from the first 2 movies. Like there's one called Torso that only has half a body, and there's the twins, which are 2 kind of sexy Cenobite sisters, and they have a couple cool scenes in it as well. There's one scene in this movie that's really weird, where Craig Schaefer's character goes to this bar, and it's like a country western bar, and everyone's dressed up like cowboys, and they're all playing blackjack. and then he ends up chasing somebody out into the woods and gets beat up by these cowboy ninja things. It was really weird. It was a weird thing. But I thought it was a decent enough movie for what it was. I think the script was kind of originally something that was supposed to be like a 7 or something like that. It looked like it was like kind of a script originally. Alright, now we go on to Hellraiser Hellseeker. And this one is the first one to bring back Christy Cotton since part 2 properly. Unfortunately, her role in it is a cameo. And this is also the first of the Hellraiser movies to be directed by Rick Bota, who would go on to make 2 more after this. I think he pretty much filmed the other 2 back to back. But this one is okay, but at this point they've kind of settled into this whole Jacob's Ladder type of storytelling, which started with Inferno, where they have the guy open a box and then he has to figure out what's going on. But of course with these sequels you already know what's going on, so it's kind of like a waste of our time. Like, we know he's doomed to hell, but he doesn't know, and so we have to wait for him to kind of find out for himself. This one is probably one of the better ones that Bota did, although maybe Deader would be a little bit better, but this is one of the more interesting ones. Deader is okay, but the plot's almost exactly the same thing. It's like Carrie Rohr, who I think she used to be in like Sliders or something like that, in Anaconda. She's like a reporter, and then she gets a videotape of somebody dying coming back to life, and I guess there's like this cult called the Deaders, and she's trying to investigate it, but of course somehow they're linked to the Cenobites. But there is a really cool scene how she discovers the limit configuration. It's kind of like there's this dead body that's propped up in the bathroom, and it's like the best scene in the whole movie. But it's an okay film, but I don't know. Now onto the more interesting one. Hellraiser movie. Actually, it's not interesting, but it's Hellraiser Hellworld. Now, this one was the most blatant for not actually being a Hellraiser script, and you can tell when you watch the movie. Now, I think the original title was Dark Can't Breathe, and it's a revenge story. And basically, they reworked it, but the story is there's a group of friends, and one of the friends commits suicide. But there's like this website called Hellworld that these kids have gotten into when they got invitations to go to this Hellworld party, and it's being held by Lance Hendrickson, his character. And I'm gonna spoil this movie, because this movie is kind of an insult to Hellraiser fans, because basically, for the most part, this isn't a true Hellraiser movie at all, because he drugs the characters and he buries them in the ground, hence the title Dark Can't Breathe. And he wants revenge for his son, who he didn't even love in the first place because he abandoned him when he was young. So it's such a weird movie, but the thing is that a lot of the Cenobites' interactions throughout the movie don't match anything in any of the movies. And in fact, the weird thing is the characters know all the mythos of the Hellraiser universe, which is kind of weird, but somehow that all ended up on the internet somehow, and they all discuss it as the movie's going on. And there's also a ghost at the end of the movie, which is supposed to be one of the twists. Like, the first twist is that there's a ghost of the character that committed suicide actually comes back to help them, which I thought was kind of lame, but I think that ghost was from the original script. So I'm going to talk about that one. Alright, so let's go on to the final movie, and I had a hard time with this one. And that's Hellraiser Revelations. And this one has a distinction of being the first original script for a Hellraiser movie since Bloodlines. And honestly, I fell asleep on this movie like 3 times trying to watch it. And the only thing that I did like about it that was a positive is it kind of goes back to some storylines from the first 2 movies with the whole escaping from hell bit. But aside from that, there's like found footage stuff thrown in there. And of course the major problem is they couldn't get Doug Bradley back because they didn't want to pay him the money. And the guy they got to be in this wasn't very good at all. He didn't look right in the makeup. And then they have another character that looks like a junior Pinhead, which is really annoying as well. But, well, what are you going to do? The whole reason why they made Hellraiser Revelations, from what I've understood, is they were about to lose the rights, and they wanted to keep the rights, so they rushed out and made a movie as quick as they could. Maybe we'll get like another decent Hellraiser movie at some point. Maybe not. I don't know. Alright guys, that's my response bid for Aaron Pynn. Check out Falagar's video. I'll put a link in the description box for that. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you all later.